So good afternoon, all, to all the members of the Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors. My name is Brent Adams, and I'll be your trainer today for this session on Realist, your tax and public record system that integrates with your Flex MLS listing system. We're going to run through a quick PowerPoint briefly, and then I'll get into Realist, show you the different ways to get into Realist and all the things it can do for you. So those of you who've had the opportunity to use Realist, this is effectively what your homepage looks like. A little bit more news on that because there's going to be some updates coming up in the next several days where you're actually going to see a different homepage for Realist. Actually, we're going to be adding a dashboard to Realist, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a moment. But once you get past that dashboard and you want to start doing work in Realist, that is searching for properties, this is generally where you do it. This is the Realist homepage, the search homepage, and it's split up into three major sections. One, you've got the search section over here on the left-hand side with various search attributes from who owns a property to where it's located to different physical characteristics or sales statistics regarding that property. And you can create your own searches and search for properties that only match the criteria you're looking for. And when you find those properties, they're returned on the right-hand side in two places. One is going to be in the form of these push pins on the map that you see at the right, sort of up here on the top. And the different colors are going to indicate different statuses within the MLS. And then you'll also get them down here in the grid as well. So that way you can sort them and get a good snapshot view of what's going on with those properties. Now, clicking in a number of places is going to open up a suite of reports, starting with the property detail report that you see on your screen here. And that's your flagship report in Realist, where you're going to find out who owns information or who owns that property, where it's located, sale, mortgage, foreclosure information, physical characteristics, and of course, taxes and assessments as well. Now up at the top, there's a number of tabs too, and those tabs are going to contain some more supplementary reports, like a comparables report, information about your neighbors, or statistical information about where the property is located, among other things. Also flood maps and building sketches, and also different plat maps too. So Realist takes maps. By the way, we do use Google Maps, which come, of course, with all the different views and the different street views as well. We take property data from your county recorder's office. We take property data from your assessor's office. We take listing data from your Flex MLS system each night. We also incorporate that into Realist and display it right alongside tax data as well. And we also include things like U.S. Census data, information about local businesses. So all this public records information is all put into one nice little place where, again, we can make it searchable. We're going to be able to give you great photos, nice charts, great looking graphs, wonderful maps that you can use to, again, keep your finger on the pulse of the real estate market and also impart that knowledge to your clients as well. Let's talk a little bit about the data that we bring to you within Realist. Tax and assessment data is updated annually in the state of New Jersey. Now that's going to be updated once per year. Now, of course, transactions like sales, mortgages, and foreclosures are going to be updated much more often than that. And I'll show you how to see how often those are updated in each of your individual counties in New Jersey as well. We're also going to use some indicators using some proprietary rules. We're going to be able to show you when properties are owned by the bank, if properties have been sold to a third party by the bank as well, and also some short sales too. Now, as far as the listing data, I made a little bit of a reference to the listing data we pull in from Flex. Each day, we pull in information about your photos, statuses, listing dates, and prices as well. So if there's a property that you find in Realist that has a listing associated with it in Flex, we're going to bring that information in, including some characteristics that we get from the listing as well, and that we display right alongside the tax information. And that can also sometimes create some discrepancies, by the way, because of course what the county says about a property isn't always necessarily what the listing agent says about a property. Sometimes there are those discrepancies where the county thinks it's a 3-bedroom home and the listing agent who's been in that home knows it's a 4-bedroom home. You know, perhaps the previous owners didn't get the proper permits when they put an addition on that property. So the county still thinks it's 3 bedrooms, but the agent knows it's 4. At any rate, I want to point out those discrepancies for you and let you know that we don't tell you who's right or who's wrong. We just show you those discrepancies and leave it up to your discretion as to which source you feel more comfortable trusting. Also, the maps, we're going to spend a lot of time on the maps in Realist. One of the things I love about the maps is we've actually got parcel lines overlaid on top of each individual, or on top of your interactive Google Maps, I should say. And that allows you to just click on the parcels for those properties and find more information about them. So if you're someone who likes to search for properties by address, that's one way to find them, but you can also find them on the map geographically, click right on top of them, and access all the suite of reports that we're going to be showing you too. Now, those boundaries are updated annually, as are boundaries for zip codes, school districts, and counties as well. Flood zone information, which I'll show you, is going to be updated monthly from FEMA. We want to keep that as up to date as possible. There's lots of other overlays we can put on the map too. We can show you where points of interest are, places to, schools, for example, places to shop, medical facilities, entertainment sources. All these can be plotted on the map so you can see where they are in relation to the properties you're interested in. And also we'll show you where all of your listing statuses are. Again, information we bring in from Flex each night, and we can show you where sales that have happened according to the county too. We've even got some trends we can show you, so some larger overarching trends that we can usually aggregate by zip code that are going to let you know where there are areas of higher sale prices or higher sales activity or higher foreclosure activity. And we'll be able to show you warmer colors where that information, where those things are happening more frequently, and cooler colors where those things are happening a little bit less frequently as well. Now, Realist can also be used as a marketing tool. Don't forget, you have access to every single parcel in the state of New Jersey. You've got them all. So whether or not they've ever been listed, you're going to have all properties that are going to be searchable for you, and that's a great marketing tool. Now, a couple of things we do to help you out with that is we do scrub our databases against the Do Not Mail list by the Direct Marketing Association. So people who have asked to not be directly solicited by mail, you will be able to filter those people out and not generate mailing labels for them if you do want to do some sort of mailing. And I'll show you how to do that when we get into Realist. Also, we geocode all of our parcels each quarter, ZIP+4 carrier route encoding for physical addresses and owner mailing addresses. So you're going to reach the people that either are authorized to sell these homes, and you're going to reach them where they're located because we've got all the prerequisite information that you need to get there. Also, Realist is a responsive design and mobile friendly. So whatever device that you're able to access, either your SSO from Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors or from Flex, you're also going to be able to use Realist on really any size device. So as you can see, either a search form, or if you're searching through a property detail report, or you're scrolling around our maps or looking at lists of properties, it's going to work on a phone. That's going to go for iOS and Android devices. It's also going to work for you on an iPad as well, or any sort of tablet that you might have as well. So just want to make sure you understand that that's a responsive design and mobile friendly, and Realist will work on any of those devices, including the laptop I'm showing you now, and of course a desktop too. All right, with that said, let me get out of here and rearrange my screen in a couple of different ways. And let me get some of these tools out of the way so I can kind of see if you guys are asking any questions and what you guys need. But here, as I get a couple of things rearranged on my second screen, thank you for your patience. We will show you first, this is actually the new dashboard, but let me first back up just a little bit and again, tell you how to log in to Realist. We're going to back up a little bit first. So here is your dashboard for Monmouth Ocean Realtors. You'll notice that there's a couple different ways that you can get into Realist. Number one, you've got a Realist tile right here on your dashboard that you can click in and directly access Realist. But there's also a lot of interaction and a lot of integration, I should say, with the Flex MLS listing system too. And I want to point that out really quickly. So I'm going to click on Flex first and show you that there are ways to get into Realist from Flex too. So if you're doing searches in Realist, number one of the things that you might see up here at the very top on these tabs up here is that you can also see Realist tax info. So that'll actually get you into Realist as well. So there's a link not only from your dashboard, but also from the Flex MLS listing system. I also see a question about, can we download an app for Realist? There is no app for Realist or for CoreLogic. Again, it's a responsive design, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a little bit. So it's web-based, but it's still going to work on any size screen for you. Also, while I'm here in Flex MLS, let me just go ahead and click on a listing. So in addition to, again, clicking on Realist tax info, that opens up a new window. And again, that'll take you right into Realist. And again, this takes you currently into that Realist homepage that I was showing you on the PowerPoint earlier, but I'll get more back to that in a little bit. This is, again, search section on the left, map over here on the right, grid down here at the bottom. But let me close out of there and also point out that from any listing you access in Flex MLS, you can also get to a property detail report in Realist too. So I'm waiting for a couple of these to pull up. Here's one in Aberdeen. I'll go ahead and click on the listing number here. And one of the things you'll notice in this detailed view is up here at the top, you see a couple of CoreLogic logos. One's a neighborhood profile report. We'll cover about that a little bit more in a moment. But if I click on Realist tax info, it actually goes right in to a property detail report. So you get the basic information that you need to see about a home, including the owner information, the community insights, the location information, taxes, assessments, physical characteristics, estimated values, listing information, sale history, mortgage history, even foreclosure history. So everything you need is right there. And this is the way Realist works for you today. And you can also click on the Launch Realist button. You can either print this page if you want to, or click on Launch Realist. And that gets you into a property detail report within Realist itself. So that was just sort of an intermediary landing page there. You can see this is all the same data I showed you on that last page: owner information, community insights, location, taxes, and assessments. But again, now you're in Realist itself, and you can see, all the bells and whistles are available here to you as well. Now, before I go too much further, what I do want to point out, and it's something that's going to be coming soon to you, I believe it's on the 22nd of this month, so 4 more days, is you're soon going to see that when you click on Realist, rather than going to that homepage that looks like this, again, with the search on the left and the map over here on the right, it's just generating here for a moment, and then the grid down here at the bottom, what you're going to see instead when you click on this Realist icon here on your SSO is you're going to see the new Realist dashboard. This is brand new. This is not available for you yet, but this is going to be very soon in the next 4 days where you land when you open up Realist. This is the new dashboard that's designed to just show you kind of at a glance what's going on in an area that you're interested in. Number one, what you'll notice up here is there's a Select County button. So you can decide which county it is that you want to take a look at the information, I'm about to show you. And of course, I right now have selected Monmouth County, New Jersey. Now, again, this is a national demo site. I have access to every state and every county in the country. You will only, of course, have access to the properties, or the counties, I should say, that you have available in Realist today. But I've got mine selected for Monmouth County right now. A few things you can do here from the dashboard. You can actually do a search right here if you want to. So if I just start to put in 516 and PAGEAVE, you see I start getting autocomplete, here in this dropdown. And you can see I can select, property here in Allenhurst or Lyndhurst if I want to, and I can actually search for that property right here on the dashboard. Additionally, there's a market temperature letting you know if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. There's some quick stats that are available for you here. So for the last month, we can show you how many closed sales there have been, how many pending sales, where are these things trending to. So lots of stats just allowing you to know what's going on in your area. You can actually access the CoreLogic Twitter feed. That's what you're seeing here, any of the tweets that we've sent recently, and you can click on any of them to actually launch Twitter itself. There's also some charts here that are a rolling 12-month period. And again, we're just looking at these for the county of Monmouth right now, but your average sale price. As you mouse over these, you get a little bit of information, and you can see where sale prices have gone over the past 12 months. Same here with change in MLS sales activity. Not surprisingly, we see lots of sales in the summertime in June, July, May, but not so many in January and February here. Coming down a little bit further, we've also got a couple of other widgets that can be moved if you want to. So notice each of them has these little 3 dots next to them. And if you'd like to drag a widget or put something in a different place than you see it in right now, you can easily click and drag those anytime you want. But these are just showing you, for example, property market insights, where you can read more. So this is going to be basically the CoreLogic blog that you can access. If you've saved any properties, when you've starred them in Realist, you're going to be able to see them and access them right here. We've got access to Inman articles if you'd like to read those too. And then we're going to keep a running tally of the properties you viewed last, and also any searches that you've saved as well. And you can even create a new search right here from the dashboard. This is going to be all very new for you, but again, pretty simple stuff. A couple of different charts, a couple of different graphs, access to some social media information and some blogs to give you some, again, good information about properties. And you can always toggle back and forth into search or dashboard up here at the very top. So it's always going to be easy for you to click on search, or again, you can toggle on back to dashboard if you want to, too, if you ever want to get back there and look at those quick stats or that market temperature or anything else. So a great place where you can, again, start searches or access currently saved searches and take a look at the last properties that you viewed and easily click on them. But again, that's coming for you in about 4 days. That's going to launch on the 22nd. And I just wanted to sort of give you a sneak peek at that. But for now, let's get back into Realist as you currently have it today and just start showing you how to work through Realist and do some work here. So number one, Realist is a county-based system. And as you can see, I'm searching in Monmouth County, New Jersey right now. You'll also see a recording date when I mouse over that county, and it says December 18th, 2023. So what that means for you is if you were searching for properties and they hadn't sold, we won't have any recorded deeds of sale, foreclosure, or mortgage that have been recorded after that date. So if a property sold, on December 31st, we don't have that record quite yet. So again, we get that information from the county. We do our quality control on that data. We get it into Realist. In this case, Monmouth County is up to date as of December 18th. Now, if you want to search in other counties, as I mentioned, here are all the counties in New Jersey that you can search on. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the entire state. You can search in up to 12 counties at one time. So feel free to check them as you like. And notice that some counties are a little bit more up to date than others. For example, Atlantic County, New Jersey is up to date as of January 8th, 2024, only 10 days behind the current date. So it's all going to depend on which county we're dealing with, how quickly they get information to us, and in which form they get information to us, and for us to be able to process it and get it into Realist. So just know that all those recording dates next to each and every one of those counties is going to let you know how current the date is in that particular county. And I plan to do most of my searching in Monmouth County today. But again, don't forget, you can search in up to 12 counties at one time. All right, next let's move over here to my search, and we'll talk a little bit about searching. Now there's two tabs. One is Quick Search and one is My Search. We'll start with Quick Search because it's very much what you see is what you get. You can put an address in here if you want to. We only need a partial address. You might notice that most of the search attributes we're showing you here have starts with or an is drop down next to them. Starts with means you only need to be able to put in, the first few elements of that address. So as I put in 123 Main, you'll notice my running tally down here of 9 matches lets me know I'm about to find 9 123 Main properties in Monmouth County, New Jersey. So you don't have to be able to put in, and we have the autocomplete for you there too, but you don't need to be able to put in the entire address. Same thing with owner name. If you just put in a partial owner name and you've got your starts with wildcard turned on, we'll be able to search for properties that way too. Additionally, listing numbers can be searched. If you want to put in 1, you might notice that there's a plus sign next to most of these search attributes too. That gives you the opportunity to add one search element to that search and then add a second. So if I want to add a second MLS number or a third MLS number, I can keep doing that as long as I like and find properties that begin or start with those numbers. And it's easy to get rid of them one at a time as well. Same thing with tax ID too. You can search by tax ID number if you'd like as well. So those are your basic searches. I always say about 90% of the people coming into Realist are really just looking for one property. And that quick search is probably going to do exactly what you wanted to do if you're just looking for one home and trying to find the taxes or the owner information about it. Now, my search is more for some of our power users. This is going to give you the ability to find properties that you happen to be interested in. Now, out of the box, we have a number of different searches that are available for you. An address search, pretty basic. A property type search. There's a foreclosure and distressed sale search. If you're someone who wants to look at properties, that have recently gone into foreclosure and you have interest in those, that's a great search for you. And there's a My Search default too. Now, what I've done is I've created a search called 516 Page Avenue. That's going to be my sample property, and that one's already come up here. And you might notice that I have information pre-populated into my search. Because not only can you save search forms, you can save data in those search forms too and run those searches over and over again. By the way, if you ever want to create your own search, it's very easy to either build off one of our existing searches or create your own search from scratch using the Customize Search button. So when you click on that, here's where you get into sort of a different interface where you can see all the different search attributes that we have available for you to use to build your own search. And we organize them into logical sections such as who owns the property and where those people live full time, where the physical property itself is located, street information, physical characteristics the property might have. As I mentioned, we bring in listing information from Flex and make it searchable here in your properties searches as well. Assessment and taxes, sales, foreclosures, mortgages, Basically, you can create your own custom search if you want to, or build off one of our existing searches. In this case, click on Create New Save Search, and you can find properties in a particular city with a certain number of bedrooms, a certain number of bathrooms, with a tax between a certain amount of dollars, and also maybe a property that has some sort of foreclosure against it, or a property that is or is not owner occupied. All things that you can search on here. Create your own search, give it a name, save it, and it'll then appear in this dropdown and you can access it again and again. So that's really the basics of searching. I'm not going to go ahead and save that search right now, because what I'd like to get into now is some of the data that we have available for you for particular properties. So in this case, I'm going to search for my property on 516 Page Avenue. And don't forget, I've got all my information already populated in there. And it's going to find that property, and it's located right here. And you'll see that little green push pin right there on the map. So first of all, dead giveaway, we've got a little green push pin. That means this is an actively listed property in Flex. By the way, when you find properties that have listings associated with them in Flex, all you need to do is click on that little icon there, and we'll take you back into Flex, into the entire listing history for this particular property. So here it is. You can see here's the current active listing I just linked back to, but also this property looks like it had a canceled listing not long ago. It was up for rent a couple of different times, as you can see by some of those values. And again, we've got listings going way back for this property, but that's the entire listing history for this home. That's what we call our reverse link feature. I showed you how to get into Realist from Flex, but you can also get back into Flex from Realist, either by clicking on that little icon there, or even clicking on this pop-up and this direct link to MLS too. What I want to do now, though, is I want to get into a property detail report. There's a lot of ways to do that. You can click on the report button up here at the very top on the map. You can click on reports down here in the lower right-hand corner too, or you can also double-click right here on the grid and open up that suite of reports for this particular home, starting with the property detail report. Now, since this property is listed, we're also bringing in the photos from that listing too from Flex. So if I click on that photo, we don't, of course, just have one photo. In this case, we have 30 photos for this property. And you can feel free to scroll through each and every one of them. So again, all these changes, any photos that have been changed by the listing agent, if they've been changed one day, usually by the very next day, we'll get that information coming into Realist too. So any changes in status, price, photos, those things are going to flow into Realist shortly after they occur in Flex. But there's our entire gallery of photos. Up here at the top, we've got a mixture of MLS data and also some tax data as well. If this property weren't listed, most of this information here, bedrooms, bathrooms, last sale price, would all be coming from tax data. So this is just sort of our property summary up here at the top, gives you a little snapshot. You can then see who owns the property. In this case, it's Robert and Jeanette, and you'll see their tax billing address. We use this to determine whether or not a property is or is not owner occupied. So what we do is we match up the tax billing address where the owners of this property live full-time, where they get their tax information sent each year, and we match it up against the physical address of the property. As long as that matches, we consider it an owner-occupied property. Moving down a little bit further, we've also added, and this is relatively new, in the past I'd say 6 months to a year, the Community Insights section, where you can see what's going on in this neighborhood regarding this property too. What's the median home value of properties in this area? What's the crime risk for properties in this area? What school district are you in? And how have that school district ranked on their standardized test scores recently? Is it a family-friendly area? Score through 1 through 100. And what's the Q1 home price forecast and the last 2-year home appreciation? So all good information that, again, you can print out, you can email if you want to. Whoops, sorry, I got too many clicks. You can print out, you can email if you want to, and send this information to clients who may be interested in this property and want to know a little bit more about the surrounding area in a property that they're considering buying. Moving down a little bit lower, we get back into sort of some more standard information that we collect from your county, such as the township, also the subdivision, the zoning code, the block and the lot, even your flood zone information too. Under tax information, you'll get some basic information here too. The thing I want to point out the most is a lot of times you'll see these tax ID numbers and they will be hyperlinked. A lot of times, and it depends on the county, we will link out to your different county websites. In many cases, we might be able to link out to the actual property card for that home. In this case, We're just linking out to your Monmouth County open public record search, as you can see here, and you'll have to run that search yourself by book number, by page number, or by instrument number if you want to. We've certainly also got document type, block and lot. But again, this is your government website that we link out to from Realist itself, and you may notice that number there. That's basically where we get our information from ourselves. Moving down into the assessment and tax tab, we'll always give you a 3-year running total of taxes and assessments and the dollar and percentage change year over year. Nice to see those taxes going down from 2021 to 2023. Again, it's that rolling 3-year period. So as 2024's taxes and assessments come in, you'll see 2021's drop off. Next, we move down to physical characteristics of the home, including the lot size, acreage, square footage, the number of stories. Here's a great place for me to show you that there is a discrepancy between what the county says about this property and what the agent says, the listing agent says about this property. According to the county, it's a 2-story house. According to the agent, it's a 3-story house. So again, we don't tell you who's right or who's wrong. We show you that discrepancy and leave it up to your discretion as to which value you trust more. Although if we scroll up to the top of that property, it looks like a 2-story, could be a 3, so I'm not sure, but there is a discrepancy there in that characteristics section, so we can show that to you right now. Also, you're going to get bedrooms, bathrooms. Some of this information is going to come from listing data, some is going to come from tax data. Again, a lot of times we'll match, a lot of times we won't match, but we'll always call out when we do or do not match with any of the information that comes in for the characteristics for those homes. Moving down next, there is a sales score indicator, and this is actually usually a great kind of way to tell whether or not a property is going to sell within the next 6 months. And we'll give it a score between 0 to 1,000. Now, not surprisingly, when a property becomes actively listed, as this one is, we remove the sales score indicator because odds are that property is about to sell. And then once it sells, we'll give that score there, that sales score indicator again. And it'll probably be relatively low since that property just sold, unless it looks like that property is being flipped or something like that based on our data. But that sales score indicator can be searchable, and I'll show you how that really works really well to do some canvassing and to do some marketing a little bit too. We'll also put an estimated value on these properties too. So in this case, here's what we think this property might be worth if it were to sell today. We don't just give you this value, we give you a range between which we think the property might sell. And then we actually tell you how confident we are in that score too. So confidence score and forecast standard deviation are pretty well defined down here in the fine print at the bottom. But just to kind of talk through this in layman's terms, we think there's a 69% chance this house might sell between plus or minus 15% of $2.8 million if it were to sell today. Now, of course, we want to see confidence scores as high as possible and forecast standard deviation scores as low as possible. And that will really tell you how good that estimated value is. So we don't just give you that number, we tell you what we think of it too. Rental trends is very similar, and that here's what we think this property could be rented for as well. Same thing, you get the forecast standard deviation and all the information you need to down here in sort of the fine print down here at the bottom. Another thing before we get too much further, since I'm showing you some estimated values and things that may be good tools for you that you may not want to share, you can roll up each and every one of these sections. Notice I just rolled up rental trends and estimated value. They don't hide them entirely when you print out these reports. So I do want to point out that you can customize any and all reports that I'm about to show you in Realist using the Customize View button. So if you don't want that estimated value to show up, let's see, where's that one under estimated value? Or if you don't want those rental trends to show up, just uncheck them in that Customize View section, hit Apply, and then notice that those two sections of this report have now gone away. So they're gone. We go from sales score indicator right down here to listing information. And now when you print this out, when you email this report, it will not have that section on it anymore. Now, one thing to know, you will never see that section for any or either of those sections for any property that you ever search for in Realist ever again until you go back up into that Customize View section and decide to actually manually put them back. And then once you do, you've got the full suite of information that you're going to get in that property detail report. All right, so that's how to customize reports. Let's move back into the data again. And we're going back into information that we get, in this case, from your listings. So in this case, that MLS listing number is hyperlinked for the actively listed property that we see right now. That's just another place that allows us to link back into Flex, into the listing history for this home. Speaking of listing history, it's down here at the bottom. We've got listings for this property going all the way back to 2020. And again, you can see whether they've expired or they were canceled and all the requisite information, kind of a snapshot of that listing history. But again, don't forget, if you need that full listing history, you can click on that little number or a number of other places and get back into that listing history and flex for those full listings as well. Moving down a little bit lower, we now move back into public records information where we get information like the sales history. So the last time this property sold was back in 2005. And you can also see, usually there's a bit of a linear sales history. Looks like Albert Nevins sold to Howard DeBishop for $68,000. We don't happen to have a date for it. But Howard held on to that property and sold it to the Ancanas in 2005 for $970,000. You can also scroll down a little bit lower and see what the mortgage history is for these properties too. Now, the mortgage history doesn't necessarily match up by column, but usually, you can do things, for example, like see that this property was purchased in 2005 on November 16th, at which point also a mortgage was taken out on that same day. So you get a good idea as to the equity history in this property. $516,000 mortgage, you get the idea that about $450,000 was put down on that property. Also, these mortgages, I want to remind you, are simply originations. They don't show any remaining balances. But again, you can see if they're refis or if they're resale mortgages. And also notice how I'm scrolling back and forth, either using the slide bar here or also the arrows to see if there's a little bit more out there to the right or to the left that you can't see. Lastly, this property looks like it has a history of going in and out of foreclosure. So there was a list pendants back in 2009. That list pendants was released in 2013. Another list pendants back in 2017 as well. So it gives you a little bit of an idea as to what's going on with this property in the past. Here's your property map, two different static maps, one letting you know exactly where the property is located, one showing you the estimated lot dimensions of these properties. Don't forget, we see the estimated lot dimensions here, but as we scroll back up to the top, I think in the physical characteristics section, if I'm not mistaken, you actually get the lot frontage and the lot depth right here. And don't forget, I'll be showing you an assessor map in a little bit too with all of those actually legally accepted lot dimensions too. But that's the property detail report. All kinds of estimated values, information about listings, sales, foreclosures, for mortgages. Also, information about the physical characteristics, who owns the property. That's a ton of data. So this is really where you're probably going to find most of what you want to know about a property. But I'd like to take some time and go over a couple of supplementary reports here at the right. And we'll start with a comparables report. So you can run a CMA in Realist. The beauty of running the CMA in Realist is not only will you come up with properties that are listed, and again, you may have a CMA in Flex that'll do that, but we'll come up with properties that have potentially not been listed through the MLS too. So that's a nice little bonus. Now I pressed comparables and I automatically get 13 little bubbles coming up on the map and 13 properties down here in my grid. And you can actually play with the aspect ratio here if you want to and just look at more grid, or also look at more map. But you might ask why I came up with those 13 properties, and the answer to that lies over here in the search criteria button at the upper right. So when I click on that, here's really everything that governs how many comps I came up with and why I came up with those comps. And I don't want to get into too many details here or too down into the weeds, but choose as many or as few comps as you want to return. Sort them in any way you want to. Also, include other aspects to the report, some values that we project on the property. Otherwise, down here at the bottom, you might want to ensure that your property has certain characteristics. If you're comping a property with a pool, maybe you do want properties with pools to be returned as comps. How far away should they be from your subject property? Should they have sold for a certain amount, built between a certain year, have a certain number of bedrooms or bathrooms or stories? Feel free to select any of these in your dropdowns. Do you want to keep these searches for these comps within a specific geographic boundary, like in the same city or in the same zip code or the same street even? Do you also want to search for them? How many months do you want to go back and search for them? Either 1 to 12 months, or even use our date range down here at the very bottom and use our calendar icon. Go back as many years to find comps if you'd like to as well, but in this case, I'll just select 12 months. You can decide to keep some of these properties within a specific percentage of the square footage of the home or the square footage of the lot. So in this case, I'm keeping my property within 15% of the square footage of the home that I'm searching. So for sake of argument, if I was searching a 1,000 square foot home, or I was comping a property, I should say, a 1,000 square foot home, if that's what 516 page was. I wouldn't return any comps that are larger than 1,150 square feet or smaller than 850 square feet, keeping it within that plus or minus 15% difference. Now, lot area is selected to none, so I won't find properties based on their lot size. I could get a 10-acre lot down the street or a 1/10 of an acre lot down the street. It all depends on if I decide to use either the drop-down with the percentage, enter the square footage myself using the drop-down, or freeform enter it too. And then land use code. Same as subject is what it's defaulted to. So if you're comping a single family residential home, you will return other properties that are single family residential homes as comps. You won't get condos or anything else. And the other thing I might point out is style. This one I tend to stay away from. We don't always get information from the county on the style of a home. So a lot of times you'll have one of these checked, and you might be looking for a property, because it's a cabin or a Cape Cod or a bungalow. And if we don't have that information from the county and you're trying to make it a searchable attribute in your comp report, you might not find any comps. Just try to stay away from that one if possible. All right, so all of that is what governed me coming up with these 13 comps. Now, this is just a list of comps to start with. I can also come over here and I can decide which ones I want to include or which ones I don't want to include based on the data that I see here in the grid. So if I want to, I can decide that some of these are maybe a little too far away, like 13 and 12. I might decide that some of these sale prices are a little bit low. Here's one that sold for $655,000. I'll take out that one. Maybe up here at the top, one for $569. I'll take out that one. You choose which ones you want to take out and which ones you don't. These are going to let you know, again, get you to the photos for those properties, the property detail reports for those homes if you want to dig closer, and also, of course, all the different statuses as well. Green for active, red for sold, purple for expired, and orange would be for pending as well. But once you've narrowed down your pool of comparables and you're happy with them, click on Generate Report. And as you generate that report, you'll see our comp report itself. So now on this interactive map, you can easily see where your subject property is and where all your surrounding comps are. Maybe I wanted a couple of them on the other side of Deal Lake, but these are the ones I've chosen right now. Here's the search criteria you use to find those comps. Basic summary statistics, subject property, high, low, median, and average value of all your comps. And then the comparable report itself. With your subject property always on the left, comp 1, 2, 3, and 4 out to the right, but I think I chose about 9. So you can keep scrolling over and see all those properties too. And again, everything's in a nice column and row format, so you can do comparisons between the size of the lot, or the square footage of the home, or the number of stories, or the bedrooms, or the bathrooms, or anything else that you want to. So that's basically your comparables report, and an easy way to run a quick CMA that also can potentially include for sale by owners or private sales that weren't necessarily processed through the MLS. Another search or another report that I'll show you very briefly that's extremely similar to the the comparables report is the neighbors report. The neighbors report functions very much like the comparables report, except all it's doing right now is finding my, in this case, 20 physically closest neighbors. You can see these are all surrounding my subject property. I'll click on search criteria here really briefly, but as you can see, you can find as many as 30 neighbors if you want to, as far as 3 miles away from the property. And you can even keep them in a specific geographic range if you'd like to. In this case, maybe I'll choose street and then hit submit. And then all the properties that I'm searching for will end up on the same street that are close to this property too. So lots of different ways you can do that. And then again, your neighbors, neighbor 1, 2, 3, 4 out here to the right. Remember, these aren't comparables. These are properties that, again, are just physically closest to the subject property. I sometimes call it my nosy neighbors search. If you're kind of looking at maybe buying a property here on 516 page, neighbors might want to, or the potential buyers might want to see, hey, how long have the neighbors lived here? What did they pay for their home? How big is it? What are they paying in taxes? Why are their taxes so much less than mine? Again, you can find out what you need to know about the neighbors too. All right, next what I'd like to hop into are a couple of reports that are going to kind of give you some more trends and what's going on demographically in the area. So first of all, I'm going to click on market trends up here at the top. And what market trends is going to show you is very close to what you saw on that dashboard we showed earlier. Except now we're looking at all this kind of for the most recent month. And we'll tell you exactly what month we're looking at for. Now, we'll keep as up to date as we can, but usually these things lag by about 2 or 3 months or so. Right now, we're still only in December of 2023. But you can see how many active listings there were, the average sale price, the average price per square foot, the sale price to list price ratio as well. And we'll give you comparisons for the past 5 years too, so you can see what's been going on sort of in a tabular format in the past several months, in the past several years, what's going on with some of those trends. There's also some different graphs down here at the bottom too. So your average sale price over a rolling 12-month period, either by MLS stats, and you can also toggle over to tax stats as well. And we'll show you in the 3 geographic areas where this property is located, where those trends are going. So the county of Monmouth, also New Brunswick and Lakewood, and also the zip code of 07711. Same thing over here for average sale to original list price ratio, hovering right around 92% right now, but it was actually up to 101% not long ago. So you can see where those trends have been going lately. Average price per square foot, whether by MLS data or tax data. Again, MLS data including only properties sold through Monmouth, or properties, the tax properties, which of course is all sales, regardless of which MLS or no MLS that they've been sold through to. Number of sales as well, how many sales there have been through the MLS or via tax records. And change in sales activity month over month as well, so you can see which months we've had high sales and which months we've had sort of decreases in those sales as well. So that's your market trends, sort of some nice graphs and some good information to, again, use for you, for your research, but also to show to your clients too, if they're looking at what a hot neighborhood versus a cool neighborhood is. And speaking of neighborhoods, we can also look at the neighborhood profile too. Now, much of the information you see here comes in from the most recent US Census. So you're getting population statistics, population distribution by age, by gender, by marital status as well. So this is all census data up here at the top. Housing stats, your median home sale price, annual turnover, how many people own, rent, how many homes are vacant. Of people that do rent, what are they paying for? A studio, a 1, 2, 3, or 4 bedroom? Where do people work? Household income each year? How they commute to work? What's the weather in the area? And what sort of level of education have people attained in this area too? And these are all aggregated by zip code. This is all census data up here at the very top. And then down here towards the bottom, we start getting into schools and businesses. And let me quickly, as I do with most of these reports, go to the search criteria section up here in the upper right of this particular report. When it comes to businesses and schools, you can decide how far away from your subject property you'd like to find businesses and how many businesses per category you'd like to show. And here are all the different types of businesses, all of which I have checked. So they're over here and selected, but you can uncheck or X out the ones you don't want. Same thing for schools. How far out would you like to go from this particular property to find schools? Would you like to find public, private, or both? And what types of schools would you like to find? High schools, middle schools, K through 12, colleges. I've selected all right now. And since I've done that, we're going to see all the schools that are within a prescribed radius of this home. And you're going to see what our school ratings are from great schools. Those are going to let you know exactly how the kids did on their state standardized test scores the year previous. And we're going to give you some basic stats about those schools too, private, public, and otherwise. As I mentioned, businesses are also available too. And we'll also always show you what type of businesses or the name of the business, the address, some contact information for them, how far it is, and what type of business it is that we're talking about that's near this particular property. So here's the banks, here's the places to eat and drink nearby, here's your healthcare services, all great information that you can gather about these homes. And again, impart to your clients if you'd like to. All right, a couple more maps to show you and a few more things, and then we'll hop into doing some searches on the map. Here's an assessor map, by the way. This is a static map that is going to actually show you sort of the lot dimensions, among other things. These are stored as TIFF files, by the way. So whatever opens a TIFF file on your machine is what you're going to see here. And mine is, I think, Windows Photo Viewer. But here again is that plat map that you're about to see. And here's where you can see the lot and the block. And remember, I think my property was right up here. It was kind of an irregular lot, so you can actually see what the lot dimensions here are themselves. But we've got that plat map for you. And it's kind of what you see is what you get. These are just coming straight from the county, and usually there's a little bit of information down here about where they come from and when they were created too. So that is how you get to your assessor maps. Flood map is its own separate map. So here you can actually see the flood zone determination. So you can see in this case, we're right here on the beach, but this property does not happen to be in a flood zone, but it is certainly very close to several flood zones. We give you information here on the legend about what type of flood zone it is, whether it's V or A or X500. And then we give you a little bit more information down here on what's going on or how to kind of decipher some of the information that we show you here. So again, is it a coastal barrier resource area? Is it in that zone or out of that zone? And what is a coastal barrier resource area? We'll show you that information too. If you're someone who wants to get even more flood information, we'll actually give you not only a flood risk score here from this premium flood map, but also a flash flood risk score as well. So if you're someone who's really concerned about flood information on a particular property, it might be worth the extra $19.99 to download this particular report. Also, feel free to download a sample report and take a look at the type of information that's contained within it as well. Speaking of pay-to-play reports, there is one more that is similar to that, and that is your hazards and risks report. That one also is at a charge of $20. Here, I'll download a sample report of one of these. That's going to be a PDF in this case, and what it's going to look like is, and what it's going to contain in it, it's going to have things like crime risk score. It's also going to have things like different types of, whoops, let's get that Chrome extension out of there. I should be able to open that. There we are. So you're going to get sort of information, and it won't always be pertinent to New Jersey, of course. Not too worried about earthquake risk score, but of course we do this in California too, so they need to know a little bit about that. But wind and storm risk score, that could be hurricanes, tornadoes, straight line winds, wildfire risk score, distance to fire station. These are the types of things that you're going to see in these charts. Crime risk, again, earthquake risk, not something you're probably going to have to worry about down the shore. Your tornadoes, not really either. Straight lines, hurricanes, absolutely. Also, wildfire, maybe in the Pine Barrens and areas like that. And then, of course, other things about burns and distance to nearby fire stations, too. So those are just a couple additional reports that you can purchase if you'd like to. But at this point, we've gone through pretty much every report. I'd like to spend a little bit of time on the maps right now and show you how to use Realist kind of from a map perspective. So here, let's make Realist one big map, and you can do that using the split map and list buttons here. By the way, easy for you to just sort of click and drag if you want to, or use those split map and list buttons up at the top. But again, on these maps, we've got a number of different things. Number of one, we've got the peg man here. If you want to drag him over and see what the street view is on a property, and sort of walk the block like you do in Google Maps, there's that home, and you can see exactly what it looks like. So maybe it is 3 stories, hard to say, but I can always hit back and get back to my road maps again. Also, of course, you can use a satellite view too. And you can even use a hybrid view where it throws those street names, among other things, on top of that property as well. I like to use road maps, just a little bit easier to see. But don't forget, you can also not only click on the property in question that you've just searched on, but you can also see what's going on with the next door neighbors. So this property is adjacent to a lot of different properties. And look what I'm doing. I'm just walking the block. Now here's a property that hasn't been listed through the MLS. I can quickly zoom into it. I can measure its parcel dimensions. Or another thing I can do is I can actually look at the parcel disclaimer as well. But I can walk the block. Here's a property that has been listed. It's got an MLS sale price. It's got the ability for me to link back into Flex too. My actively listed property has photos associated with it too. But just walk the block, find a property you're interested in, click on the rooftop, and it's a great way to search for properties right here on the map. Now, another way that you can narrow down some of your searches if you'd like is you can also draw shapes. So I'm going to draw your attention to some of the map tools we have up here at the very top. And I'll show you that you can draw a circle or a rectangle or a polygon. Here, let's use a real world example here. And let's say I just sold this property here on Page Avenue. I know it says it's actively listed, but just for sake of argument, let's say I sold it. And I'm interested in drumming up some more business in this area and selling properties in this particular neighborhood right here along the water. Well, a great way to do that would be to narrow it down either by a neighborhood or maybe a zip code. But if that's too big and you want to really get small, really want to get granular, draw a shape. Now, homes aren't really always laid out in circles and squares here, so a polygon tool would be nice. And I can start up here and go down here. Maybe I don't want to go too far east, and I'm going to get all these properties right here alongside the water, those high dollar homes. Where Yoga with Love is, it looks like maybe that's a little bit more commercial. I'll kind of eliminate that from my search, and we'll finish up that shape right there. And now I'm only searching for properties within the confines of that little polygon there. I can even click on that and I can change it. I can, whoops, sorry, too many clicks. But I can even click right there And I can change the name. I can call this, my farm area search or something like that. And don't forget, you can save this search over here with this shape attached to it if you want to as well. Let me center that a little bit more. Now, right now, I'm only looking for one property. Remember, I was looking for 516 page. But as I take that out, I'm now about to find every property in that shaded area, and there's 72 properties. But a great way for me to narrow it down would be potentially to find properties that have a higher sell score. If I'm doing a just sold mailing, I'm letting people know that I just sold this property, and I'm going to send out some postcards to them, letting them know that I just sold this property and that they should list their property with me in the near future. Maybe I want to find properties with a really high sell score. So instead of is between, I can use is greater than and maybe put in, relatively low number. How about greater than 300? Well, now we're only down to 71 matches. That's not really great. Let's put in 400 potentially. And right now I'm down to 40 matches. So I've just eliminated 30 properties that have lower sell scores that might not necessarily potentially sell right there. So I'm going to click on I'm going to click on search right now. And now I'm only going to find properties, again, with a relatively high sell score. They're not only here on my map, they're also here on my list as well. And I can decide which ones I want to include and which ones I don't want to include in my mailing. So for whatever reason you want to uncheck this one or uncheck that one, feel free. And then I'm going to come down here and click on labels. And as I click on labels, you'll see I have a couple of choices. Avery 5160s, 61s, or 62s. So whichever ones you happen to have on hand or happen to be able to purchase at Office Depot, put those in your printer at this point. You can use mixed case or all capital letters to address those envelopes. Now, I want to use the tax billing address right now, not the property address. If I use the property address for a just sold mailing, I might be reaching vacant homes or renters in those homes. The tax billing address is going to be able to get me those people who are authorized to sell this home, whether or not they live in them full-time or not. We can also pull those owners off the deeds and show them on the labels. We can include any foreign addresses. If you do a huge search and a massive mailing and you come across potentially people, or a builder or a landlord who owns more than one properties, we can eliminate those duplicates as well instead of generating 10 different labels for them. And you can even create a custom label. A lot of times the owner names on those deeds are trusts or LLCs. So you can actually put in, future home seller. Or you can use the current owner and that custom label too. Now, each of you are allowed 7,000 exports per person per month. So when I go to create those, they're going to open up in a .rtf file extension that stands for rich text format. And as I open those up, they're going to open up in Word, and you'll see them momentarily as they open up. And now I'm going to have labels for those properties. So you can see we're picking up people who live in Lock Harbor, but we're also finding people that live in Allenhurst or Brooklyn or Manhattan or anywhere else. A couple other things you might notice. Some people are on our no mail list. Right now I have my do not mail list filter turned off. So what you'll notice is we tag those properties, a little parenthetical that says no mail. And unfortunately, when you print them out without turning your filters on, it also puts that no mail tag in there too. So now not only are you mailing someone on the no mail list, you're letting them know that you're mailing them on the no mail list. But of course, hey, you can take that information out if you want to as well. I won't say anything. But now all you need to do is print out these labels, affix them to your postcards, your envelopes, anything else that you want to, and you've got a great little marketing campaign. That all you needed to do was draw a little shape on the map, find properties with a relatively high sell score, and print them out. So that's a great way to create a little marketing campaign using Realist. Now, in addition to printing out labels, you can also export this information into a spreadsheet too. Quick export will be what you see is what you get. Every property you have checked and every header you see across here in the grid right now is what we'll export. But if you'd like to create your own custom export, you can do that as well. So creating your own custom export, we have over 99 different fields of data that you can create your export from. You can also create your own export templates. As I've done here, I've gone into my owner information section and see how I have all these checked, and I saved it as something called my owner mailing export. And you can create your own exports and run them again and again too. But what I have is basically all the same information that I exported onto a label a moment ago. I'm now going to export into a spreadsheet, and that's going to open up in Excel, and you'll see that over here. Don't forget, sometimes you do need to use your pop-up blockers or add Realist to your trusted sites. Sometimes some of these pop-ups do get blocked. So just pay attention to that. But this is, again, exporting that address and owner data into a spreadsheet. So maybe you're someone who doesn't want to do your own labels. You want to send this off to a mailing house. You've got everything you need right here. All the address information broken out, whether or not these properties are owner occupied, if anyone is on the no mail list, everything that you need is right here to export. And you can export, again, sale data, mortgage data, foreclosure data, and you can run pivot tables or whatever else you want to. Crunch the numbers here in Excel. That's a whole nother course, but once you get that information out of Realist, it's up to you, and you can do with it what you wish if you want to. All right, let me show you a couple other map features here. Right now, I'm going to click on Clear All. That's going to clear out anything that I've drawn here. I'm also going to click on Clear All down here at the bottom from the search that I just did, and that's going to get rid of everything in my search attributes, everything in my grid, and everything in my map too. So that's sort of your magic eraser button. And let's talk about some of the other map tools you have available to you. So number one, all your parcel lines. You can turn those on or turn those off if you'd like to. There's also neighborhood boundaries. So you can see in some areas, and again, usually they're your more highly populated areas, you're going to get some neighborhood boundaries. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't, so those can be helpful. I won't go through all of these, zip code, city, county, those are pretty kind of, easy to figure out. The ones that sort of are kind of interesting to see, your school district boundaries. So if you want to know when somebody's buying a house, what school district they're going to end up being involved in, whether it's Deal Elementary or Wanamasa or Gables or Midtown, we can load those up. And also remember I showed you that flood zone map earlier. We've also got a flood zone overlay here on the map itself. So very similar, but interactive now. And you can also hold down Control and click, and you'll find out more information about that particular flood zone for you to pop up. You'll get the flood zone code, the panel, and the last date on which FEMA updated that panel as well. So all of that is under your boundaries. Some other fun ones that we can sort of upload on top of these maps, and let me maybe scroll a little bit more into Lock Arbor and that general area, is you can see where all your distressed properties are. So pre-foreclosure, auction, bank-owned properties, bank-owned sales as well. You start to see these little colorful pins popping up. Orange is, in this case, going to be pre-foreclosure. When I open up that report, you'll notice that we tag it. We let you know it's in pre-foreclosure, and what pre-foreclosure means for us is easy to find under this additional foreclosure tab. In this case, there was a list pendants filed against this property back in June of 2023. And you can see also the mortgage in this case that isn't being paid, basically, and the whole history of foreclosure going on with this property as well. So this just gives you a little bit of an idea of a property where someone hasn't been paying their mortgage lately. I'm going to hit the back button, see if we can't find a couple other foreclosure types as well. Whoops, I'm out here in the bay now, or out here in the lake. Let me scroll out just a tiny bit. And I think down here south, there might have been a couple more properties, particularly one, in this case, that was scheduled to go to auction. There's a little yellow push pin down here. And as I click on that one, those are of interest because in many cases, they'll let you know when properties are scheduled to go to auction. So this one again has that little yellow auction tab on it. As I click on the foreclosure tab here itself, you'll see it's a notice of sale that was posted on that property back in August of 2023. And the property was scheduled to go to auction back in August of 2023 at 2 o'clock in Freehold at the address here. And usually, if I'm not mistaken, those are usually your county courthouses. And here's the judgment amount too. So in many cases, you may find auctions in the future, and you can search by them via that foreclosure and auction, that foreclosure and distress sale search. But in this case, this one, probably already sold. But you can also see the entire foreclosure history. Wow. In this case, dating back to, 2005 that have been occurring on this property as well. All right, we'll hit the back button again. And a couple of other distressed properties that may be of interest for you. And I keep sort of ending up out here in the water. Sorry about that, folks. But let me scroll out a bit. And I think down here, as I mentioned, south, sort of in Asbury Park, there were a couple more properties that I was interested in showing to you. So I scroll down a bit. Here's one, a little green sign right here. That indicates the property's owned by the bank right now. I won't go into too much detail about this. Sorry, I'm keeping you guys a little bit late here on some of this information, but this one's owned by Loan Care. So these are bank or RE owned properties. So you'll be able to see those. The other one that can be of interest are, here, this little blue one. So in this case, This is what we call a bank-owned sale. Somebody called Curtis Properties LLC owns this property right now, but I'll be pretty sure if I scroll down into the sale history for this property that some sort of lending institution probably sold it to them. And in this case, you can kind of go back to the sales history and see, aha, looks like this property probably went into foreclosure at some point in the recent past, and then US Bank took it over. And then, probably someone who's flipping homes bought it from the bank, and is looking to relist it again pretty soon. So again, there's probably a foreclosure history with that property, and there is. But these are great ways to find distressed properties. It's just a good way to kind of use Realist as sort of a little bit of a detective tool and find properties that, may be distressed and that you may want to contact, in the case that you want to list those properties or even buy those properties as well. So those are foreclosures and distressed properties. Turned all those off. Let me scroll out a bit more to a 30,000 foot view here and also show you that we can see where all the sales that have occurred in the past 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. All those little red signs are showing up. I can show you, and those are sales that happened according to the county. These are sales for actively listed properties or properties that are scheduled to go pending or properties that are expired that are from the MLS. So again, red for sold, green for active, orange for pending, purple for expired. That's your whole kind of listing inventory there. Property characteristics. I can put the square footages on top of all these properties too. And of course, the further in you scroll into these properties, the more different square footages that we'll be able to put on each one of them. So just some good overlays for, different property characteristics that you can show here too. A couple other things to show. Also, we've got some trends. So if you want to see where we're selling more properties versus less properties by zip code over the past several months, I'll scroll out a little bit. And sorry, my computer's lagging a little bit here. But as I scroll out a little bit more, there we are. Warmer colors are going to indicate, more sales. So your green is a little bit warmer than your blues, effectively. Here, let's bring up a more colorful one. How about sale prices? You're probably going to see warm colors near the shore, and of course cooler colors, away from the water. But you can see again red. And as I hold down Control and click, I'm going to let you know over a rolling 3-month period, again as of November, the average sale price in 07723, just under $2 million. So great ways to show trends on the map too. I'll turn those off. And also you can show, and let's see, where was I? I want to get back down towards sort of Asbury Park in that general area. But there's a few other things that we can place on top of the map if you like to. So number one, we can show you where points of interest are. So where are the banks, the schools, the places to eat and drink? And you'll see all of those little icons show up. And they're clickable. So if you want to see what this shopping area is, or actually that's a place to eat, that's Frank's Deli and Restaurant. There's McDonald's on Main Street in Asbury Park. So those can all be loaded on top of the map. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go over too much more here on this particular map. There's driving directions. You can get driving from and drive to certain areas. The one thing that I will point out for you is I will point out locate on map. This is great for finding, again, things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find over here in your searches. Like, again, it says address, but you can do an address search over here. But watch over here, if you want to, I can put in something like, hey, I want to know I've got someone who wants to buy a house and they really want to be near the Stone Pony. Well, there's the Stone Pony. And that's not something you'd necessarily be able to find searching over here using your typical search attributes. But with Find on Map, you can put in, again, parks or lakes or anything else that you want to find. There's also a measuring tool. Again, pretty standard stuff here. And you can even annotate the map. The other thing to point out is you can always, and here, I will annotate the map. We'll actually say, hey, here's the Stone Pony. Here's the Stone Pony. And I want to point out that when you print, whether it's reports, whether it's a map, you can always come down here to print or email. And you're going to be able to print any report you want. You can print the map and the table. You can print, again, the card view, which I'll show you in a moment, the table view if you want, or just the map. So most of these are PDFs with the exception of the map. And don't forget, you can customize any of those reports, and they'll print exactly the way you customized them when I showed you that earlier. But the map is very much what you see is what you get, and it's actually an image file. So when you print out this one, what ends up happening is it's going to generate I think it's a portable network graphic, a PNG file. And what that'll end up doing is generating that for me. And whatever you have on the map, whatever zoom level you're into, whatever overlays you've placed on the map, that's exactly the way that's going to print out. So you'll see over here when that comes up, oops, and everything's gone black for me. Oh, I think it's probably gone black for you guys too. It's opening up that graphic. And there you go. You can see again, that map scrolled into where I was with my little annotation on there as well. So that's how you can print things out too. All right, back to a split view. Let me just go over a couple more things with you and I'll try to get you out of here. Sorry, folks, maybe hang on for another 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be done. I'm gonna do a quick search really fast, and I'm just gonna do a search by owner name. In this case, a Wilkins search. We'll find all the Wilkinses in Monmouth County, New Jersey. So now you can see if I highlight a property here on the grid, it will also highlight it here on the map too. So easy when you find one on the grid to also find it on the map, very easy to do. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to just a list view, and I wanna point out what happens when I go to this list view. It switches over to this card view, and you can always toggle between the table view. Again, that's going to allow you to do things like, search it or sort by subdivision if you want to. So I can sort by subdivision, alphabetically, or I can sort by owner name if I want to. But card view is great because it really kind of is part of that responsive design nature of Realist that I was alluding to earlier. When I shrink this down, let's say potentially, to the size of, maybe a phone, we'll make it really small. Now what you can see is everything that I've shown you how to do in the full laptop version that I'm showing you right now, or your desktop, can be done on something the size of a phone if you want to. So again, see how now I've gotten to a list of properties and I can scroll through them. I can go and toggle back and forth to the map if I want to, and all the different map tools I showed you, whether they're boundaries or distressed properties or all those trends, everything works just fine. In the list view, imagine I scroll down, I find the property I like, I tap on it on my phone. I'm now into a property detail report. And I scroll down into that property detail report. Everything I want to see is now available, but I can also scroll over to the right to see things that aren't, don't fit on that size screen. My tabs are gone up here at the very top, but now my navigation, is now in this drop down. So here's how I can get to market trends or neighbors or other things. And again, the bigger it gets, all of a sudden, all of that comes back. See how everything snaps too? Everything moves. Nothing goes off the screen. It just makes sure that it makes it small enough and navigable enough that everything works on a small screen or a big screen as well. So just wanted to show you how that works too. Back to that card view, don't forget you can favorite properties, and this will, as very new, show up on your new dashboard. Not only will they show up on your new dashboard as saved properties, but also you can access them up here under the star, as you can see, and you can always go to your saved properties to, view only your saved properties. Of course, you can always remove them from being saved too anytime you want. And of course, you can always go back to that entire list of properties too. Also, you can customize some of these different things too. So customize cards, for example. Owner name, assessed value, and sale date are what I see on these cards. In addition, of course, to the photos, the address, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, and the square footages. But if I want to customize these things on this card itself, all I need to do is click on Customize Cards. And maybe instead of sale date, I want to know whether or not these properties were owner occupied right off the bat on these cards. And now you'll see they either are or are not owner occupied right here on these cards too. Now again, I'll toggle back to a table view very briefly. There's ways that you can, again, change these up too. So you've already seen how I can sort just by clicking on the headers if I want to. I'll also point out that there's a couple of columns that don't have any headers. That's going to be the photo indicator, allows you to get to the photos for any of these properties. The listing indicator, which will not only link you back into the listings associated with these properties in Flex, but also show you the status. And then these are going to be our foreclosures and also our distress sales. So there probably aren't too many of these. But as if you see any flags in here, that would be where those show up too. And then lastly, you can also customize your table. So if I click on Customize Table, I can decide to do a couple of different things. Well, number one, maybe I only want to check a couple of properties, and I only want to show those properties. I can click on Show Only Selected Rows, or I can bring them back if I want to. Additionally, I can show it in compact mode. So right now I can see about 16 lines of properties. Maybe I want to see more. A little bit harder to read, but a lot more properties to see. And if you don't like that, you can always go back to our default mode. And again, if you don't like the order of the columns or you want to add or remove columns, you can always click on Customize Table, Show Hide Columns. And that allows you now to click or drag any of these anywhere you want to, move them up, move them down, uncheck one, check another, add the columns you want to, remove the ones you don't, put them in exactly the order you like, and then you'll be able to customize your table to your own personal specifications. And that way you'll see the columns you like on the left, the ones you don't on the right. All right, folks, with that said, I'm going to get you out of here on just a couple of housekeeping items. I do want to point out that there's a little gear icon up here at the very top. And there's a few things that you can do. Number one, under search, you can decide to, remember, display mailing label addresses for properties on the do not mail list. Right now I'm allowing myself to display them. Now I'd be not allowing myself to display them and they'd be filtered out. You can search up to 3,000 properties at one time. Right now I only had 1,000 returning. I can go up to 3,000 if I want to do a search too. Remember how I kept accessing the report preferences at the top of each and every single report, whether it was comparables, or it was neighbors report, or the neighborhood profile report with those schools and businesses. This is where, again, another place where you can access those preferences. You do have the ability to email any of these reports out of Realist if you want to as well, and you can create your own email signature as well if you want to. So, no links or photos or anything in there, just basic text, but you can put your contact information in there. And of course, on the maps, you can decide to have your parcel line show up as a default or not as well. All right, other than that, I've just gone over a lot of information, folks, in an hour and 15 minutes. Your heads are probably swimming. It's a lot to go over. I did record today's session, and I will be providing it to the MLS. But also, there's a question mark up here at the upper right-hand corner. So if you want to, click on Go to User Guide. And if you're still feeling a little bit, uneasy with Realist, click here on Getting Started. And this will just let you know how to find your way around Realist if you want to, or understanding how to do a search, or setting your user preferences that I just showed you a moment ago. Once you're feeling a little bit more advanced, go into the Features Guide. And now remember, one of the things I showed you was how to create mailing labels. That was, 30 minutes ago? Someone may have forgotten that by now. Well, we've got it all here for you in creating mailing labels, and we'll show you exactly how to do it. And if you're not someone who wants to read about it, you want to watch, I've broken up most of today's session into smaller video tutorials. So this one's an introduction to Realist. Here's how to use the labels, premium map layers, the cell score, the flood maps, community insight, and rental trends. If you have questions about any of that, really most of them are going to be answered in these video tutorials. But with that said, folks, I'm going to end today's session in terms of the recording, and offline I'll answer some of the questions that I do see coming in. But I do thank you for attending today's session. Don't forget, we do have another one, I believe, next week, not next week, but I think the week after as well. But I'm going to stop that recording. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. And also learning a little bit more about Realist, your tax and public record system. I think what you can see is it's more than just a tax and public record system. It can be used really for so many different kind of tools. It's a great way to find information about all the homes that you want to know about in your area. It's a great way to drum up some more business. Hopefully I showed you some things you didn't know before that's going to make your job a little bit easier and help you go out there and start making some money selling homes. So thanks again, folks.